What's up, everybody? I'm Swanky Games, and today I'm going to be showing you guys how to play a more fundamentally based Hwoarang, or at least give you some general tips and ideas on how to go about doing so. I did kind of break this down into about 10 steps, which sounds like a lot at first, but once we get into it, you'll understand. But if you end up finding this useful or helpful, or you enjoyed it, make sure you like and subscribe. But it lets me know that you guys enjoyed it and learned something from it, and it ultimately helps other people find my videos, so I can ultimately end up helping more people out, which is what I want to do. So, and keep in mind, you can take a lot of these steps and apply them to other characters. So, you don't have to just take these steps and apply them just to Hwoarang. If, say, later on down the line, you want to play Victor, for example, you can still take these general concepts and apply them. So keep that stuff in mind. But let's go ahead and get into it. Before we get into it, I usually like to go over notations. I don't make an exception for any other situation. I don't assume that anybody's watched any other videos. So if you want to skip this, there will be timestamps in the description. Please feel free to skip it. This is primarily for like people who are still new to notations or are still learning. So getting into it. So you're going to hear a lot of notations while you're playing Tekken throughout. The main ones are going to be 1, 2, 3, and 4. There will be other exceptions as well, such as 1 plus 2 or 3 plus 4. Then, there will be other notations like that as well. We'll get into those in a minute, but those are just a couple examples that you might hear. So that's what we're going to go over. I'm on the wrong side. So your first attack, your first thing is going to be your 1. This is going to be your left jab. Yeah, your left jab. This is going to be your square on the PlayStation or your X on the Xbox. Your 2 is going to be your right jab. This is going to be triangle on the PlayStation or Y on the Xbox. Your 3 is going to be your left kick. It's going to be X on the PlayStation or A on the Xbox. And your 4 is going to be your circle on the PlayStation or B on the Xbox. And this is going to be your right kick or right leg. So if I say something like 1 plus 2, this is both your punch buttons. This is square and triangle at the same time, or X and Y at the same time on Xbox. And 3 plus 4 is going to be both your kick buttons at the same time. So X and circle on PlayStation and A and B on Xbox. And so on and so on. You might also hear somebody say something like 3 tilde 4, for example. This just means that you'll hit both kick buttons, not at the same time, but very quickly in succession. So if I hit 3 and then 4 fairly slow, if you look at my command history, you can see 3, you see a space, and then 4, that signifies that I hit them pretty slowly. But if I hit 3 and 4 quicker, even though there's still that space there, I still got the move out, or in the command history now, there's no space. So I hit them fairly quick apart, and I was able to get this move rather than this move, respectively. Same with this move, for example. If I just hit 3, 4, nothing special comes out. If I hit them both at the same time, or not at the same time, but in quick succession, a different move comes out altogether, which is what you want. If I say forward, this will always mean towards your opponent. If I say backwards, this will always be away from your opponent. If I say forward dash, this means dash towards your opponent. If I say back dash, this means dashing away from your opponent. And sometimes you might hear me say crouch dash, which is slightly more of an advanced thing. If you can't learn this right now, don't stress about it. But it's basically you hit forward, then you hit down, down, forward, forward, and you will get kind of like a crouch dash. As you can see, he crouches in as he tries to get in, hence crouch dash. And then also every now and again you'll hear the notation for neutral. This means, let me find an example, a good example. This move, for example, the star is what represents neutral. So if I go to do the move, for example, you'll see up in my command history, you'll see the forward, and then right next to it, you'll see a 4, and then that space, and then you'll see a 3 in that little space. That's the neutral. And then above that, you'll see the down, forward, and the 4. That is what neutral means. Is basically you'll stop hitting any kind of a button. Period. With that in mind, let's go ahead and get started. I guess the big question before we get started as well is like, why would you want to learn this? And I guess the long and short of it is I did a video about Hwoarang's pressure about a week ago, explaining how to do his pressure, but I ended up seeing a lot of comments where a lot of people are running into the same problems that I had mentioned in that video when it comes to like being able to defend. And I feel like learning how to play Hwoarang in a more fundamental manner is both important and difficult if you don't know how to go about doing so. Now, I'm not going to show you guys every single thing. This video would take way too long if I did that. However, I'm just going to show you guys a couple examples. And then it's kind of going to be on you guys to kind of fill in the rest. Because like I said, if I do everything, it's going to take too long. And I do want to try to keep these under a certain time. So far, I've been keeping most of these under an hour. And with Hwoarang, especially when you're trying to cover a topic like this, that's difficult. So we're going to try to do that. Again, this is meant as a beginner kind of thing. Like if you're in the beginner intermediate area, this will be more for you. There is going to be like a bonus section towards the end that'll be more for like advanced to intermediate, or intermediate to advanced, I should say. So if you're in that category, I will be, again, I think I said this earlier, but I will be putting timestamps in the description so you can just skip to that area so you don't have to, unless you want to know what these steps are, then that's fine too. Maybe there's something in here that you don't know, and that's fine. But for safety's sake, I'm just letting you know ahead of time that this might get a little dull for you slightly more better players. But this is more for us like noobs and people learning a secondary character, for example. You can apply, like I said, you can apply all these steps to every character you learn for the most part. Every character generally has rules that they follow and rules that are broken when it comes to the generic rules of Tekken, based on their strengths, weaknesses, and play styles. So when I say generally or usually or exceptions, that means that in certain cases, one character might break a rule or something of that nature. So let's just go ahead and get into it. The first step is going to be your highs. These are going to be typically your safe, quick moves that are duckable. So that's like usually their only weakness is that they're duckable. Every now and again, you might run into like a quick high that's punishable, or a slow high that gives you a lot of plus frames, for example, on block. And, so there's exceptions. The first thing I would suggest is make sure you have a 10 frame jab. I know there's at least one character in this game that does not have a 10 frame jab. But your main thing is you're gonna make sure that's 10 frames. And this is gonna apply for like in the future, because for all we know, we might get another tank character with slower jabs. So just make sure you understand that you have a jab. Everybody should have one. They're all as important. It's arguably the most important tool in the entirety of Tekken. So make sure you understand that that is there. And then, you know, see if you have another good, quick, safe high. For example, so we're just going to kind of cover Hwoarang as we go. So with Hwoarang, again, he has a one jab pretty good. He doesn't have any like one hit punches or kicks that are just high, that are safe, aside from back 3, or back 2, my fault, which is a homing, which we'll get into that in a little bit. It's safe. It's 13 frames to come out. That's a pretty good high. You also have, you know, but aside from that, you have 2, 4, 3. As you can see, it's I think it's -8 on block, and then it's natural on hit. So if the jab does manage to hit, then the whole thing's guaranteed. It kind of pushes them back. So even though you get +9, it more or less sets the neutral. But that might be a nice get off me tool. You have a tool like 4-3, which is really, really good. And there's exception to these where like you can maybe end up in another stance, but we're not really covering that. I will cover kind of a section where it's like, if you find yourself in a different stance, this is how you could maybe get out of it. But aside from that, like I said, if I do all that, this will just take too long. For example, forward 4 is a big one. Unfortunately, this does lead you into a stance, which might not be ideal, but it does give you a lot of plus frames on block. So you can maybe do like a quick 1 jab, which will look like that, 16 frames to come out. And even though it's -2 on block, this whole thing is uninterruptible with certain exceptions. So, you know, it might be a quick way to just like throw it out and then, you know, try to see if you can't get a little bit of damage. And then if you're in right foot forward, for example, which is another stance you might be in, a good thing to note is how you can either stay compact or maybe how you can get into other stances, or most notably, your left foot forward. So like if I hit 2, it's just again, if I'm in stance, I want to make sure I have a jab. Luckily in this stance, we do have a jab in the form of 2 instead of 1. It's 10 frames to come out, and it's actually +2 on block instead of +1. So it's just a little bit better. It's not great, but it's better, arguably. And then you have something like forward 1, which is just a 10 frame jab, +1 on block, but it gets you out of right foot forward with little to no risk, and it's a high. And last but not least, you got forward 3. Just like with your forward 4 from left foot forward, forward 3 is your high option. This is a little faster. Like I wouldn't call this slow at all. Like where this might hit at around 20 frames, 18 to 20 frames, this one will hit at around 14 to 15 frames. It's a little bit faster. So you can just throw out a quick 1 jab or a quick 2 jab, or whatever you want to choose, whatever you choose to throw out there, and get out of stance real quick, which is ideal. So then you got your step 2, which is your mids. Mids are generally slower. Sometimes they're unsafe, or will at least end a player's turn if blocked, but it will catch players trying to duck. Now, although the slower part is true pretty much no matter what, with a couple exceptions like Yoshi's Flash, for example, not all mids are punishable or necessarily end your turn. So the first thing you should do is look for your fastest, safest mid in general. Usually this will be your down forward 1. Most of the time, this will be a 13 frame startup and -1 on block. Then see if your character has other mids that are like quickish, like 18 frames or quicker. For example, Hwoarang has down forward 4, which is another homing move. Mid, safe, it does put you in another stance. But just if you, and this goes for all of the steps, but if you have a stance character, make sure that the move you pick to do, if it does put you in another stance, at least doesn't put you in a dangerous situation. For example, if you do forward 4, like make sure you at least hit something to get out of a stance before you stop hitting a button, so that you know, you don't put yourself in a situation where you can't block, because you can't block in Flamingo, obviously. So you want to get in and out real quick. But that's for all the steps. Just don't, in general, just don't put yourself in a dangerous situation should you mess up or decide to pause for a breath. With Hwoarang, give me a second. Down forward, I actually picked a few options here. So you have down forward 1, forward 1 plus 2, and down forward 2. The reason I like all these moves is for 2 reasons. One, they're all safe. They're anywhere between -1 to -9, so they're all safe. Down forward 2 is -7 and a launcher. But the one other big reason I like all these moves is because if you do find yourself in right foot forward, you can still do all these moves. So it's very, very good. So if you find yourself in right foot forward, you at least know like you have your down forward 1 still you can still use. Another big tool is your down forward 3, which covers 3 big things, which is a safe mid, it's homing, and it's a heat engager. So very, very good. Very, very good. So it's arguably, usually when a move covers 3 or more categories, it's arguably broken. There might be a couple weaknesses or something that keeps it from being ultimately broken, but usually when it covers 3 or more things, it's an abusable move that can be considered broken. And every character has one, or 2. So then you have back 2 is a right foot forward mid. And that was pretty much it as far as mids. Pretty safe mids, pretty comfortable mids. Back 2 is probably your best mid, which is locked behind a stance. However, it's a very good move. It's +4 on block. Very, very good. So very good move. You know, in general. So it covers our step 2. We have mid from left foot forward, right foot forward, and then I'm just gonna leave it to you guys to find the stuff from Flamingos. And then let's see. Where the hell did I go here? Step 3. So our first step was highs. Our second step was lows. Do you guys know what step 3 is gonna be? Correct. It's gonna be throws. No, I'm just kidding. It's gonna be lows. Not throws, but lows. These are typically a bit slower. They're unsafe. They don't necessarily provide much reward, even on hit. But they incentivize your opponent to duck, since they're the only way to defend against these attacks. Well, since the only way to defend against these attacks is to duck. And then there are some with the exception. For example, this move is a slightly more damaging low. But aside from that, nothing too major. It's said that anything 25 frames or slower is reactable, seeable, and reactable. And there are definitely moves in this game that are slower than 25 frames. An advanced player may even be able to react up to maybe in a 22 frame move, and that's kind of pushing it. That's like really pushing it for some people. So ideally, you want to find a low that's faster than 22 frames so it can't be seen or reacted to. that doesn't pose too much risk if it's blocked. So for example, Hwoarang's down back 3, it's 19 frames, that's faster than 22 frames. It's -1 on hit, which sucks. It is only -13 on block, which is not too bad. Most lows in this are going to be somewhere between the -11 to -13 range on block. So that's good. Some characters will get more out of that than others, but for the most part, that's pretty good. So, you know, it's like I said, it's -1, 19 frame startup. It has other properties as well, but we're not really worried about that right this second. But then there's also a move like this move, for example. It's 20 frames to come out, so it's still faster than that 22 frame mark, but on block it's -23. So I still might want to throw it out once every blue moon because I need to incentivize my opponent to duck. But it's not a low I want to abuse, because if they do duck it, then they can make me pay for trying to throw that out. And as you guys did see, even on hit, it was still -1. So it wasn't like I got a big payoff from it. Stuff to keep in mind. For Hwoarang, and again, we're just sticking with left foot forward and right foot forward. We have down back 3. This can be done from both left foot forward and right foot forward, which is, you know, why I picked it. Very easy to remember. So you got a pretty sizable kit that you can use from left foot forward and right foot forward, both high, mid, and low levels, or steps. So that's very, very good. So it just means you have less to worry about. Another one is down 3-4. Although every single one of these options has different properties, he has this very same move out of 3 stances, out of 3 out of 4 stances. So it's very, very good to have a low like that. So, I mean, this move's arguably broken. However, the idea is that even if you end up in left flamingo stance, you still have this move. And like I said, they all have different properties. For example, this is the most basic one, 17 frames, 17 damage, and gives you +8 on block. Then you have this one that's 18 frames to come out, and it's a pseudo homing move, which means there's really only one way to avoid it, which is a particular sidewalk this direction. And aside from that, they're not getting away from it. And it does a little bit, it does 20 damage rather than 17. It's a little bit better. And then you have the version from left flamingo stance. This is 16 frames to come out, so it's the fastest option, and it still does 17 damage, but just like the original version, it has no tracking. So keep that stuff in mind. And if you're, even though they do all 3 of these options, excuse me, all 3 of these options do put you in right foot flamingo stance. If you just simply put in a quick mid, especially like down forward 4 or 1, for example, it'll get you out of stance pretty safely without being able to be interrupted, for the most part, pretty comfortably. And then sidestep 4, very, very good move. Doesn't matter what stance you're in, as long as you're not in flamingo stance, a sidestep will always make that happen. Very, very good move. +5 on hit, -13. I think it's -13 on block. Yeah, so very good move. Right foot forward, like I said, down back 3, and down 3-4, and sidestep 4 are all things you can do from right foot forward. So the only real option you got that I think is worth mentioning is down 3+4. I like this move a lot. There might be a little bit more on the situational side, but it is 19 frames to come out. It's +5 on hit, and it's only -11 on block. So even though there are some characters that can get a lot more off of something that's like, say, minus 13 on block, they aren't going to get anything off of anything more than maybe a wall standing 11 frame move off of this. And if they try to go for anything else, you'll block it. So that's very, very nice. All right. Let's move on to step 4. And this is going to be Wall Rising. This is directly affected from when you do manage to block a low or a low attack, or maybe you ducked and your opponent actually threw out a high attack. It's good to know what your options are so that when you see an opportunity from while you're crouched to retaliate. Here, the only general rule is usually everybody has like a 10 frame jab while crouched, an 11 frame wall rising tool, and a 15 frame launching tool. And like I said, some characters carry different exceptions, but we're going to go based off of this, generic rules. So first we want to look to make sure he does have a crouch jab, which he does. And then we got to see what their 11 frame move is. Hwoarang's happens to be wall rising 4/4. Very, very good move. And then what I would suggest is check to make sure it's safe on block. Some characters have a really good wall rising 11 move, but it's punishable. Whereas other characters like Hwoarang have a really good 11 frame that gives them plus frames on block or on hit, and is still safe on block, which is fairly rare-ish for what it is. But take what you can get. And like I said, in the 15 frame launching tool, which is again, find out what it is if they have one, and their properties, both on block and hit. Oh, my bad. So this was a mid-high. The range is kind of lacking, so that's one thing to note. And it's +3 on block, which is pretty good. So basically, the biggest threat here is that the high could get blocked. As you saw, if the last hit does hit, then the whole thing does not happen. I don't think anything's guaranteed off of that, because I think your fastest move at that is, in fact, 13 frames, but that's not the point. That's not what we're going after here. So, like I said, with Hwoarang, your best option is going to be 4/4. That's pretty good for an 11 frame. And then your 11, and then your 15 frame, which is going to be your launcher. Then step 5 is throws. Every character has a generic grab and a command grab. I'm pretty sure. So it's good to make sure you know what yours are. Just the generic and the main up forward 1+2 grab. And then see if your character, ours does, has more than just those, and decide which you'd like to try and use, or which you don't want to try and use. For example, Hwoarang has a 2 break and a 1 break. He has, and throws have a plethora of different uses, and most can be broken or avoided in some way, shape, or form. This is primarily when you're facing someone. This is primarily for when you're facing somebody who seems to block everything. Sometimes to throw them can force them to be more engaging, because they're not hitting buttons, and they realize it, and then it forces them to maybe move a little bit more, push a few extra buttons so that they're not getting thrown. That force them to be a little bit more engaged, and ultimately potentially open them up. I would say Hwoarang's best grabs is going to be forward 2+3, and he can do this from every single stance. Every single stance. So he has a 1+2 break from every single one of his stances. Oh, my bad. Wait, what? That's cool. Anyways, so maybe not back. So even back turned, he has that 1+2 break, but it's a little bit more of a tricky input, and I'm not gonna have you guys learn that right now. And then a tube, his tube break, for example, would be pretty solid. So pretty good. Step 5. Those were throws. Step 6, power crushes. Very, very good tools. Every character has an armor move. Unfortunately, not every character's armor move is as strong or safe as others. Some are simply there to steal a turn, but are hella punishable on block. Others provide stronger possibilities, like a follow-up attack, for example. So ours is our main one is gonna be down forward 3/4. As I said, this provides a follow-up. This can also be canceled. This can also be done from left flamingo stance and right foot forward. However, in right foot forward, instead of it being down forward 3, it's down forward 2+3. So keep that in mind. And then the same applies. You can either hold forward to cancel or follow through. On block, it's -12. If you absorb an attack, it becomes -6. In right foot forward, your main power crush is going to be backlash, 3 tilde 4. So very good tool, very good stuff. Now, cool part about that being a power crush, we'll get more into this in a later part of the video as well, but I actually fought and as a Senna player the other day who was really abusing we're all running 3-2. Like that was their main play. So when I realized that was what they were gonna do, I tried to sidestep, and I sidestepped most of them. It was pretty easy. Sidestepped to the background. It was pretty easy. But every now and again, it would still clip me. I think that's a bug. But so what I did was, if I wasn't sure, it's primarily like when they're further away, it seemed to like clip me when I tried to sidestep, rather than like if they were closer, it was significantly easier to just get out of the way and not be clipped. But so they would do it, and I would go into right foot forward, do backlash, this power crush, and it gave me a free follow-up. I was able to use that to my advantage. So so stuff like that is something to keep in mind. Some people, like I said, some people's power crushes are more useful, other people's are not. Step 7, your homing moves, which is pretty simple. You just need a move to stop your opponent from stepping you. This is Tekken 7. This is a 3D game. So if they seem to enjoy abusing this mechanic, characters like Lilies, for example, who've always had above average sidestep movement, this will help keep them honest. So especially if you're lucky enough to have a safe mid homing move, Hwoarang does have a lot of fairly decent homing moves. He has down forward 4, which is very, very good on its own. He also has down forward 4, or right foot forward 3+4. My fault, I was looking at my notes. Guys, the backlash that we mentioned a little bit ago, and also down forward 3, which is also a heat engager. So keep in mind that if a move covers, I think I might have said this already, but if I didn't, I'm covering it now. Some moves, if a move can carry 3 or more situations. So for example, the backlash provides guaranteed follow-up, power crush, and a homing move. those moves would be considered broken. There's exceptions to it, like it's a little slower, so it's manageable, but it's still by definition broken. And every character has these, so keep in mind that like when it comes to certain categories, it's best not to think about things too much. That's why I mentioned backlash in 2 categories instead of just 1, because you got to remember that even though it is a power crush, it is also a homing move. So it's something you can use to both absorb an attack and keep your opponent from sidestepping you. So it covers 2 things at once or more. Which, you know, 3rd category would be you get a follow-up attack if it lands. You know, more damage. So I just want to make sure I covered that in case I forget to cover it later. Or if I hadn't covered it already. I might mention it again too. I'm sorry if I do. So I did homing. Yeah, and then down forward 3. Again, this is one of those kind of broken moves, but it's broken for a different reason. It's because it's homing and it is a heat engager. But the reason why this is still considered broken, even though it doesn't actually hit any other categories, because 1, it's range by itself, you know, so it's a very good get-in tool. That's a whole different thing on its own. And it's a low crush, which means it'll avoid all lows. You are airborne. So it actually covers 4 categories, even though 2 of them I'm not planning to mention in this video because they're too advanced to get into right this second or to worry about as a beginner. I don't want you guys to worry about that stuff. I'm just pointing this out. Like moves like that would be considered broken because they cover 3 or more categories. And I think that is it. So the next step is going to be step 8. Where'd you go? I don't have any of this scripted, but I do have notes, and I'm kind of all over the place, so I apologize if I'm taking a little extra time. I should have probably organized this a little bit better. I apologize. But step 8 is going to be heat. Everyone has heat. You just got to test yours and see what you can do with it, see what you can abuse and get away with and get out of it, gain advantage from. Even if the advantage is that you just think it looks cool and it works. If it works for you, it's good enough. But every single character has a handful of heat stuff that they can use. The best thing to do is to find out how you can use them, and so on. Which brings us to step 8.5. I know technically this is kind of cheating, but I said 8.5 because this is really hard to put in its own category, which would be rage. You can try to find different ways to use it, but for every single character, it's the same input. And everybody only has 1, which is down forward 1+2. So for the most part, that's why I only put it in 8.5. Like you test it the same as you would heat, but there's only 1 button for every single character to use rage with. So that's why I kind of put it in 8.5. I didn't want to put it in the same step as heat, but I didn't want to make it its own step either. So it was like a weird mix, but it's basically your super. You know, the heat is you going into your Super Saiyan mode, and rage is your super at the end of the day. So that's what it is. So find out what your rage is and how you can use it. That's kind of a vague thing. So from here, everything is going to be less of a beginner to intermediate and more of a intermediate to hard, or intermediate to advanced. Some things might seem a little stupid, or might seem a little bleh. Well, okay, I wouldn't say advanced. I would say it goes from being beginner to beginner intermediate, I would say would be a better way to put it. Because this stuff's going to require a significantly more testing or analyzing, considering, yada yada yada. So if you're not ready to move on to like harder stuff, I would suggest stopping here, going to learn and get comfortable with the first 8.5 steps, and then come back and learn steps 9 and 10 and the more advanced stuff. I might not get into the advanced stuff yet today, but I will be covering them at some point. It really depends on where we are on time once we get done with step 10. So step 9 is going to be your combos. So what this means is, so every character has a combo route. Every character has a launcher. Everybody has a counter hit launcher. Every character has a tailspin or a tornado, and an ender. The idea is you got to find out what works for you, and it doesn't need to be super damaging. My bad. A small 40 to 45 damage combo. It doesn't sound like a lot, but, or I guess if you want to be really specific, a 41 damage combo, a small 40 damage combo is significantly better than a whole lot of nothing. That's how I'm going to basically put it. A small 41 damage is significantly better than a whole lot of nothing. So take what you can get, and keep in mind, again, you are learning. So even though it's only 40 damage, you know, it might not be anything fantastic, but again, you are learning. Do not stress about the damage. Just work on the muscle memory and then go from there. Add things in. I have a guide that's specifically designed to help you go from beginner combos to intermediate combos. I'll put it in the description. So you can check that stuff out. And then step 10, which I labeled as 10 frame, 12 to 13 frame, and 15 frame. Basically, this pretty much means your 10, your 12 and 13, and your 15 frame punishers specifically. So if by the off chance you notice or you feel like your opponent is doing something less than ideal, and you either think or you know that you want to make them pay for taking a risk, you punish them for it, simply. And you take your turn back. So you find your 10 frame. In our case, it's either 1-2 or 2-4-3 for Hwoarang, as we discussed earlier in the beginning, along with any of the extensions that the attack might have. Then you look for a 12 or 13 frame punish. Now, if you're never going to punish out of right foot forward, so don't worry about this. So always assume that you're in left foot forward, because you will only ever be in left foot forward. So then you look for your 12 and your 13 frame punish. Hwoarang's best 13 frame punish is down forward 1-3. It's good. It gives you 6+6 on hit. Downside is that it leaves you in a stance, and so you have to follow up with something. So if you don't want to do that, if you don't want to go into a stance, the best option is 4-3. It's actually 11 frames to come out with it, which is faster than most people's generic 4 attacks, which is good, and it's safe on block. So if you're wrong, it's safe. Which is the idea. So you're looking for a 12, 13 frame launcher. The idea is to try to find one, the most ideal 12 to 13 frame punish would be 12 to 13 frame mid, that's safe. It doesn't force you into a stance, or if it does, you can block in the stance or get out of it very easily. And it's safe. I think I said safe already, but it's safe. It doesn't necessarily have to be damaging. It's nice if it's damaging, but the main things is that it's mid, it's safe, and preferably maybe long range. Long range might be a third category. So Hwoarang has an 11 frame move that I would like to abuse, which is arguably better. It does more damage than this, even if only by a little. And it leaves you with +5, which means if they try to do anything, you can trade for a launcher, which we'll get into in a second. And like I said, it's something you can abuse. It's safe. It's long range, so it covers everything. The only downside is it doesn't start mid, but it ends with a safe mid, so it at least covers part of that category. So you can call it a fail pass, but you know, it's still better than nothing. And you can still always do down forward 1 by itself. It does no damage. It does 10 damage, but it's still a mid check. It's still +6 on block, -1 on block, or -1 on block and +6 on hit. So it's still there. It's just if you don't want to go into stance, I wouldn't do down forward 1-3. That's pretty much it. Otherwise, that's there, and it's not a terrible option. As far as also, if you know something is 13 frames or worse on punish, you have your heat engage, your main heat engager down forward 3+4. That nobody should forget. It is punishable at -14. I'll give you that. But if you know it's punishable, then it's good. So even though it is punishable, it's a mid and it has good range. So even though it's not safe, it does cover 2 categories. And if you do fail, it's only -14. There's only so much most characters are going to do. So it may be worth just to throw it out if you're not sure. But if you're ever not sure 100%, down forward 1 and forward 3 are your best friends. Another example would be like Fang's back 4. That's 12 frame mid. That's safe on block, which is ridiculous, but it has crap range. So it's like, you know, there's usually an exception. And then your 15 frame. This is generally going to be your launcher. Basically, what 15 frame means is your fastest launcher. So a character like Hwoarang or Paul, who have a generic 15 frame down forward 2 that's safe, is what you're looking for. Some characters like Lars or Brian actually have a 14 frame launcher. It takes a little bit of execution, but it's there. Or unfortunately, characters like Zafina or Steve, where their fastest launcher is actually slower than 15 frames, which is unfortunate. But they have their own thing going on as well, so there's a reason for it. There's supposed to be a reason for it. So, you know, there's exceptions to it, you know. But with Hwoarang, it's 15 frames. We got a 15 frame launch. We're good. So it's always good to make sure you know what those are. So, like I said, so 10, 11, and 13, even though the category is 12, 13, and your 15 frame launcher. Those are your big things. And then you go back to step 9, and then once you found your 15 frame ish launcher, then you work off your combo, so that when you do get the punish, or you do see that you launch them, it's such an easy combo that regardless of how easy or how low damaging it is, it's something you can get every single time, no questions asked, super easy. And that's the idea. So, and you can, like I said, you can apply this to every single situation for every single character. Like I said, other characters may differ as far as their main principles are concerned, but ultimately, same thing. Some characters have stronger mids, some characters have crappier lows, crappier throws. Their heat stuff may not be as good. They might have weird gimmicks. It just depends on the character, and you guys just gotta decide if you like it or not, and if you're willing to stick it out or not. Let me check one thing. So, unfortunately, I am running out of time. So, I am going to go ahead and stop there. Keep in mind that there are other things to keep in mind. Like, I can go through them really, really fast, but I'm basically going to do like a minute each. So, so these are categorized as more of like advanced, like intermediate to advanced. So, let's just go ahead and get into them real quick. So, step 11 would be wall rising punishment. So, and this is 11 and 15 specifically, rather. But basically, it's just as important as regular punishment, but the idea here is you actively blocked a low or avoided a high, pretty much. So, and you want to be able to react to that. Step 12 is going to be panic tools. These are generally going to be unsafe tools that are only meant to basically steal turns back or to make your opponent whiff. Hwoarang unfortunately only has one panic tool, and it's not the greatest because it leaves you at -1, but it's very evasive. So it's very, very abusable for what it is, as long as he actually hits them. But it is -14 on block as well, and on whiff, it takes forever to recover. 13 is your counter hit launchers. So find a counter hit launcher, which Hwoarang's best one is back 4, down 4-4, and right flamingo stance forward 4-4. And then find your combo for that. Step 14 is going to be your crumple, stuns, and launches. So this isn't necessarily counter hit, but so like your forward 1+2, it only leads to guaranteed follow-up and not an actual combo, for example. And then you have something like up 3 that even though the launcher itself doesn't send them in the air, you can get an actual combo off of it. Step 15 is your launch and tornado mixes. So this is primarily, I'd say the best ones for Hwoarang. This is down 4-4, and his right flamingo stands forward 4-4. As you guys can see, I mentioned them at least 2 times, which means they cover at least 2 different categories. So, those are exceptions. I apologize if I'm starting to rush things a little bit. Again, this is just because I'm running out of time, and this is supposed to be advanced stuff. So if you're doing this, it's because you should already have a good understanding of everything we've covered before I said it was advanced, and you're just getting into this. And all I'm really trying to show you guys is like the bullet points and a solid example. But getting back into it, step 16, this is going to be your wall and special situational combos and enders. So it's good to get combos down, but what about when there's a wall behind your opponent or a floor blast or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not going to do the floor blast and wall blast, but I will show you guys like the wall enders. You have 3 main wall enders. Let me actually do something real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, perfect. So, basically, you have 3 main wall enders. My bad. Oh, I'm stupid. I'm stupid. All right, so what you would do here is either, the first thing I would do, let me turn heat off. So you would do crouch dash 3, and a three crouch dash 3 and a 3 forward 4, like so. And every single one of these options that I say 3 forward 4 can also be ended with 3-2. So for example, and so on. So this you would do if you think you're like running out of time and you're just trying to get in some quick damage. For example, and then the next one would be motion switch, forward 3, forward 3, and 3 forward 4. So. Or 3-2. And then your last option is going to be forward 4, 2, forward 3, 3 forward 4, or 3-2. So it'll look like this. Respectively. And those are going to be your best options. And then your last bit's going to be adding in heat and rage to your stuff. And that's going to be pretty much it as far as what you could do. So I would honestly just turn on rage and see what you can get away with. You know, work off your beginner combo and work your way up. Add, you know, do a combo that has no heat but rage. Do a combo that has heat but no rage. A combo with both. A combo while you're already in heat. For example, and so on and so on. But in any event, that's going to be it from me. I'm about 2 minutes away from hitting that hour mark, and I do try to stay under that hour mark so that's not too long, especially with my long-winded explanations. I know I'm annoying sometimes, but I'm adorable, and you know, I want to make sure you guys understand what I'm talking about and why you would maybe want to go about doing these things. But that's also why there's timestamps in the description, specifically so if you don't want to listen to me talking so much, you can just skip things. So again, if you guys found this useful, informative, entertaining, any of that jazz, please like and subscribe so it at least gets my videos out there so I can help other people. That's why I'm doing this. I want to help people. I want to get more people into Tekken. I want to make people less afraid of Tekken. It's a hard game to get into. It can be very intimidating, and like, you know, I want to do it justice. You know, I know these hour-long videos kind of suck. You know, they're not the ideal thing, but you know, you got to start somewhere. And if I can make an hour video to save you guys months of struggle potentially, then I'll take the hour. But in any event, I think I'm going to go ahead and call it there, guys. So I want to thank you guys for joining me. Thank you for, you know, checking my stuff out. And I will catch you guys in the next video. Take care, happy gaming, and peace.